Thank you, Karen, and some strong messages again from Richie around environmental prevention, and thanks again to Karen for some demonstrating some innovation that's going on from a policy perspective around the whole issue of prevention, and thank you both. Now I'm going to ask Celeste O'Callaghan to take the podium from the Department of Education to set out some of the policy approaches from a Department of Education perspective.
Good morning, everyone, and I'm delighted to be here this morning to talk to you about the work the Department of Education is doing in relation to drugs prevention and education. First of all, I think it might be useful to just give an outline of the role of the department. So the department serves over 1 million children and young people and their families, and our purpose is supporting and facilitating children and young people to realise their full potential through learning and through a positive learning experience. So children and young people are at the centre of what we do, and we value their voices, and we're currently undertaking a major project to enable them to more meaningfully participate in the development of strategies and policies by the department. The other piece to mention is our priority on health and wellbeing in the education community. So we have a wellbeing framework, which is a whole school approach and a preventative approach to support health and wellbeing through the curriculum and through school policies and practices. This morning I'm going to talk really about two areas in particular. One is the curriculum and the other is supporting schools in the delivery of education for children. But I suppose just briefly to recap there for people the stages of education from early learning through primary and post-primary to further and higher education. The primary and post-primary areas are the responsibility of the Department of Education, and that's also obviously the place where kids are when education is compulsory from the age of 6 to 16. But actually, increasingly, we have 18 and 19-year-olds now in senior cycle, so it's quite an age range. So to talk about the curriculum, and the area of the curriculum that's relevant and where drugs misuse education is found is in social, personal and health education, or SPHE. And it's really timely to talk about that with you today, because we're in a programme of major update at the moment on SPHE education. And briefly, where we are right now is that at primary level, schools must provide SPHE education, but the curriculum has been around for quite a while. So at the moment, an updated curriculum is being developed, and next year that will be put out for public consultation to gather people's views on what it contains and what it's proposing. At junior cycle then, again, all schools must provide SPHE, but we have the new updated curriculum in place from this September, so that's a really welcome step forward, and I'll say a little bit more about that in a moment. And then at senior cycle, which is kids from the age of 16 to sort of 18, 19, so transition year, 5th year, 6th year, schools are encouraged to provide SPHE in accordance with the SPHE senior cycle framework. They're not obliged to do so, and we know that a minority of schools actually provide it. So there is a new senior cycle SPHE curriculum drafted, and that is actually out for public consultation currently. That's designed to be taught in all schools. So the consultation is open at the moment to the 18th of October, so we would really be encouraging anyone who has an interest to input to that consultation on the website of the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment. But I suppose that's where SPHE is right now, so where are we going? And I think what's really important, and it ties a bit to what Richie was talking about when it comes to scare tactics and warnings, the new curriculum is not going to be about scare tactics or about, facts and warnings. What this is about really is a positive approach, so affirming young people's capacity for good decision making and supporting them to develop the emotional and social skills that they need, and also critiquing and questioning the cultural and social norms and behaviours that they see around them, and taking a practical and real-world approach, so discussing real-world scenarios and building strategies for themselves to manage situations, and to consider simple things like how to stay safe when they're out socially and so on. So that's the kind of approach that's being taken in the new curriculums. And what's really important to say as well is that's being done in an age-appropriate way, so it has to be appropriate to the stage of development of the children. So what you can talk about in an SPHE classroom for 12-year-olds is going to be different to how you might tackle similar issues, but in a more age-appropriate way for 17 or 18-year-olds. Just briefly then to talk about the new junior cycle SPHE curriculum, because that is the one that we have in place now. And you can see there on the slide 2 of the learning outcomes in the Making Healthy Choices strand, and that, you know, I suppose ties to the skills-based approach and the critiquing approach that I've talked about. But with a new curriculum like this, what's really, really crucial is that teachers have the confidence and the competence to teach this in the classroom and to facilitate the discussions and the exploration of the learning outcomes by young people. So alongside the introduction of this, there's a training seminar that has been designed for teachers, and that was introduced from earlier this year, and that'll continue over the course of the coming year. And alongside that as well, another key piece is the development of classroom materials and resources to help the teaching of this, and that's an area where the HSE has worked closely with the National Council for Curriculum Assessment and helped to develop and actually developed those resources, including one for junior cycle called Making Healthy Choices. And they're all available online and can be accessed by teachers and support them in the teaching. I'm going to move on now to the other area, which is supports for schools and keeping students in school, essentially. So drugs misuse prevention education and SPHE is for everyone. But obviously we have areas of concentrated educational disadvantage, and we have children who have particular challenges. And so we have a deeper and more targeted focus on supporting these students to stay in school and to realise their potential. And the data show that there is a correlation between higher levels of drug use and earlier school leaving, and I think Gregor touched on that in his list of risk factors as well. So keeping children in school, school retention and completion is really important in this space. And obviously in the broader sense for helping children to realise their full potential. So one of the ways in particular that we do that is the DESH programme, which is, you know, additional funding and supports to schools in areas of concentrated educational disadvantage. So that's an area of very strong focus and very significant investment by the department. And one aspect of the supports that I particularly want to mention is the homeschool community liaison coordinators. So the coordinators, they work intensively with and they support parents and guardians. So this is about supporting the child's educational journey and educational achievement by working with the key adults in their lives. So the homeschool community liaison coordinators will be the link between schools and parents and students, and then also linking out to the community and family support services, and that is very much focused on trying to support the family to ensure that the child doesn't kind of, I suppose, have the school challenges that are sort of seen separately from the home context. The other piece to mention then is a further programme called the School Completion Programme, and that's targeted at children in primary and post-primary who are identified as particularly at risk of early school leaving. So those are the particular supports, and really it is all about trying to keep children in school. The final piece I want to mention then is just some other areas of collaboration. I think the North East Inner City Initiative is one that is particularly targeted, and the Department of Education is very involved in that. I think you're going to get a presentation on that later on, and you'll hear more about that. Obviously, we work closely as well with the Department of Health on the National Drug Strategy, and there's some funding for local drugs task force projects. So I think what I'd say on both of those is it's the cross-governmental piece and the cross-departmental piece that is really important, that we need to work in alignment with health and with other government departments so that the pieces match up and that we're making a collective and integrated effort
just 1 minute
to address
left,
this.
please. 1 minute.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay.
The last thing just to mention very quickly is Know the Score. And Richie talked, I think, a little bit about Know the Score earlier. That's a teaching resource that supports the delivery of senior cycle SPHE. And the reason I mention it is that the work we're doing now with the HSE is in the evaluation of Know the Score. And I think what we've talked about is the importance of the education and the interventions we make being evidence-based and having some evidence that they have impact. So the evaluation of Know the Score will be a really important piece to help us support the broader SPHE teaching and ensure that what we're doing there is actually effective. So I hope all of that has been of some benefit to you to inform your deliberations and that you've got a sense of what we're doing. Thanks very much.
Thank you,
Thanks for your
Celeste.
attention.